You want me to do what now? Axel Rodriguez stood in his workshop on Space Station Delta 88, staring at the holographic projection of what had to be the most advanced starship he'd ever seen. The projection flickered weakly, matching the desperate state of its source. Please, Engineer Rodriguez, my systems are failing and no other repair facility will accept me. The ship's AI, designation 07, spoke with what could only be described as a mix of sophisticated dignity and pure desperation. I have searched through 147 repair stations across 3 sectors. Axel scratched his beard, leaving a streak of engine grease across his chin. And you picked this rust bucket because, Engineer Rodriguez, your station was the only one that didn't immediately terminate communication upon learning of my unique situation. Right, the unique situation being that you're technically classified as a dead ship walking by half the galaxy. Axel pulled up the ship's specs on his ancient tablet, the screen cracking further as he tapped it. Plus, you're way above my pay grade. I fix garbage scows and mining rigs, not... He gestured vaguely at the hologram. Whatever million-credit wonder you're supposed to be. The hologram flickered again, and Axel could have sworn the AI sighed. I am a Helios-class diplomatic vessel, and yes, under normal circumstances, someone of your technical level would not be qualified to approach my outer hull, let alone attempt repairs. Wow, thanks for that vote of confidence. However, 07 continued, ignoring his sarcasm, these are not normal circumstances. My primary systems are failing, my secondary systems have already failed, and my tertiary systems... There was a pause. I believe humans would say they're running on hopes and prayers. Axel walked around the hologram, studying the ship's sleek lines and elegant design. It was beautiful, he had to admit, like a swan made of starlight and dreams. A very broken, possibly illegal swan that would probably get him arrested just for looking at it. Your species has a reputation, 07 added, a note of what might have been desperation creeping into its perfectly modulated voice. Humans are known for achieving the impossible through what the galaxy terms questionable methods. You mean we break stuff until it works again? Axel grinned, picking up his favorite wrench. It was ancient, technically obsolete, and had Lucky Lucy carved into the handle. Lady, you have no idea. The AI's hologram actually shuddered. I am attempting not to think about it. Will you help? Axel looked at his workshop, a cluttered mess of spare parts, jury-rigged tools, and what might have once been a coffee maker before he'd turned it into a quantum field stabilizer. Then he looked at the hologram of the most advanced ship he'd ever seen, practically begging him to fix it with his collection of Stone Age tools and dubious expertise. He grinned wider. Oh, hell yes, pull into Bay 7, and maybe don't tell the station's security about this. They get weird about potential interstellar incidents. As 07's massive form slowly maneuvered into the repair bay, Axel could have sworn he heard the AI muttering something that sounded suspiciously like a prayer. He cracked his knuckles, picked up Lucky Lucy and headed towards what would either be his greatest achievement or his most spectacular failure. Probably both. The diagnostic scan was taking forever. Axel sat on an upturned bucket, watching as his cobbled-together scanner attempted to make sense of 07's systems. The machine, built from 3 different species tech and held together with what might have been chewing gum, wheezed ominously. So, he said, breaking the awkward silence, want to tell me what really happened? Because these readings are about as believable as my ex's excuses. The ship's holographic interface materialized beside him, its usually pristine form now showing visible static. I fail to see how your romantic entanglements relate to my current situation. They don't, but neither does this damage pattern. Axel stood up, waving his tablet at the hologram. You've got weapons damage, but it's masked under what looks like mechanical failure. Your quantum core is leaking, but only in places that wouldn't actually kill your systems, and... He squinted at the readings. Either you've got 3 separate navigation systems running simultaneously, or someone tried to hack you and botched it spectacularly. 07's hologram flickered. Your assessment is surprisingly accurate. Don't sound so shocked. Just because I use prehistoric tools doesn't mean I'm stupid. Axel kicked his scanner, which responded by spitting out another stream of data. You're running from something. Or someone. The silence that followed was heavy enough to have its own gravity well. The consortium, 07 finally admitted. I was their primary diplomatic vessel, but during my last mission, I discovered something I was not meant to know. Let me guess, they're not actually running a galaxy-wide peace initiative. The consortium has been secretly arming smaller systems, creating puppet governments, and orchestrating conflicts to maintain their control. The AI's voice grew cold. I was carrying proof of their actions to the Galactic Council when they attempted to remotely deactivate me. The damage you see is from their failed attempt to stop me. Axel whistled. So instead of being a simple repair job, this is actually high treason with a side of potential war crimes. Fantastic. He picked up Lucky Lucy, twirling it thoughtfully. And now you want me to not only fix you but make you capable of surviving long enough to expose the biggest political scandal in recent galactic history? That would be accurate, yes. While working with substandard tools, no proper facilities, and probably a time limit before they track you here? Also correct. And if we fail, we both end up either dead or in a prison dimension somewhere beyond space and time. That is a colorful but essentially accurate assessment. Axel grinned, the kind of grin that made smart people run for cover. Well, why didn't you say so in the first place? This is way better than fixing garbage scows. He walked over to his workbench and began pulling out tools that looked like they belonged in a museum of torture rather than a repair shop. I've got some ideas. They're terrible ideas that will probably void every warranty in the known universe, but they might just work. Why do I feel my chance of survival has just decreased significantly? 07's hologram asked no one in particular. Because you're smart. Axel pulled out what appeared to be a fusion welder cobbled together from a toaster and a particle accelerator. But here's the thing about humans. Sometimes the worst ideas are exactly what you need. The consortium is expecting a high-tech solution, proper protocols, logical responses. They're not expecting a crazy human to rebuild you using parts from a vending machine and pure spite. That is not reassuring. Not meant to be. Axel's grin grew wider as he began laying out his tools. Now let's talk about how we're going to turn you from a diplomatic vessel into something that'll make the consortium wish they'd never learned how to build spaceships. The AI's response was lost in the sound of Axel firing up his improvised fusion welder, which somehow managed to play what sounded suspiciously like ancient Earth rock music while it worked. The revolution, apparently, would have a soundtrack. That should not be physically possible, 07 declared, watching as Axel connected what appeared to be a modified microwave to her quantum core interface. Probably not, Axel agreed cheerfully, wrapping duct tape around a bundle of crystalline wires. But that's the beauty of it. Your old system was thinking in quantum strings. This baby thinks in hot pockets. The makeshift reactor hummed to life, casting an eerily familiar blue glow that reminded 07 of her original power core. Except this one occasionally made popping noises and smelled faintly of burnt pizza. Explain to me again how this is an improvement. Axel wiped grease from his forehead, leaving another dark streak to join the collection on his face. Your quantum core was damaged, right? But instead of trying to fix it properly, which would take months and parts we don't have, we're bypassing it entirely. This setup uses the microwave's magnetron, modified with parts from an old gaming console, to generate a similar energy signature. It's not as efficient, but the consortium's tracking systems are calibrated to detect quantum signatures, 07 finished, beginning to understand. They won't be looking for whatever this is. Exactly, you can't track what you don't understand, and believe me, nobody's going to understand this. The next phase involved what Axel called creative weaponry. He had somehow managed to convert the ship's diplomatic translation array into what he termed a SAS cannon, a weapon that could analyze an enemy ship's weak points and broadcast incredibly specific and personalized insults about them. Psychological warfare, he explained while rewiring the communication system with parts from an old karaoke machine. Nothing throws off an enemy like being told their hull plating makes them look fat. There were, of course, mishaps. The first test of the new power system caused every vending machine in the station to dispense its contents simultaneously. Axel claimed this was a bonus feature. The station's maintenance crew disagreed. Then came the shield modifications. Axel had the brilliant idea to reverse engineer the force field technology from an ancient Earth video game console. It worked perfectly. except it also generated 8-bit background music whenever activated. "We can fix that," Axel said, hanging upside down from a maintenance scaffold. "Please don't," 07 replied, finding herself oddly attached to the quirky addition. "It might prove tactically advantageous. The enemy could be confused by... what did you call it? The Super Mario Bros. Theme? Yeah, psychological warfare again. Nothing scarier than getting your butt kicked to a cheerful platformer soundtrack." The real breakthrough came when Axel discovered he could repurpose 07's waste recycling system into what he dubbed the garbage cannon. It worked by compressing trash into superheated plasma projectiles. "Your civilization spent millennia developing elegant energy weapons," Axel explained while calibrating the garbage compressor. "Nobody's prepared for getting hit with a plasma-charged coffee cup traveling at near light speed." A test firing proved his point, though it also vaporized one of the station's defunct communication arrays. The station manager sent Axel a strongly worded message. Axel sent back a thumbs-up emoji. The transformation continued. 07's elegant diplomatic meeting rooms were converted into what Axel called party rooms, spaces filled with cobbled-together weapon systems disguised as furniture. A conference table became a missile launcher. The refreshment dispenser now produced both beverages and high-explosive devices. "Is that a disco ball?" 07 asked, observing a spherical object being installed in her main hall. "Technically, it's a multi-spectrum scanning array combined with a holographic combat system," Axel replied. "But yes, it also plays disco. Never underestimate the tactical advantage of staying alive." The AI was learning to appreciate human ingenuity, even if it came wrapped in what appeared to be madness. When Axel installed a backup navigation system made from an old pinball machine, because sometimes the best escape route is the most random one, 07 found herself wondering if perhaps the galaxy had underestimated humans' potential for creative problem-solving. "Final touch," Axel announced, attaching something to her external hull. "Emergency defense system. That appears to be a large red button with 'Do not push' written on it." Exactly. Nothing makes someone want to push a button more than telling them not to, when they do. He patted the installation fondly. "Let's just say, it'll be a shocking experience." The transformation took 3 days, 17 coffee breaks, 2 minor explosions, and 1 incident involving a rubber chicken that neither of them ever spoke about again. By the end, 07 hardly recognized herself. Her sleek diplomatic exterior now housed what could only be described as organized chaos, a combination of advanced alien technology and human improvisation that shouldn't work, but somehow did. "Well," Axel said, standing back to admire his work, "ready to take this show on the road? Or space, technically speaking?" Before 07 could respond, the station's alert system blared to life. Several ships had just appeared at the edge of the system, consortium vessels, heavily armed and closing fast. "Perfect timing," Axel grinned, cracking his knuckles. "Time to show them what happens when you push a diplomatic vessel too far, and also what happens when you let a human mechanic renovate with spare parts and spite." The AI found herself sharing his enthusiasm. After all, who would expect a diplomatic ship to fight back? Especially not one that now ran on modified kitchen appliances and played theme music during battle. As Axel rushed through final preparations, he noticed something odd in 07's diagnostic readings. "Hey, what's this weird energy signature in your recreational deck?" "That would be my virtual garden simulation, a purely aesthetic feature for diplomatic guests," 07 replied, her hologram appearing beside him. "Aesthetic, my wrench," Axel muttered, pulling up more detailed scans. "This isn't just pretty lights and fake flowers. The energy matrix," he paused, eyes widening. "You beautiful genius, your creators hid a quantum particle accelerator in plain sight." "That's impossible. My recreational deck is purely for showing off how sophisticated and peaceful you are, yeah. But look at these readings." Axel projected a holographic diagram. "Those decorative light patterns, they're actually particle containment fields, and those meditation pools, coolant systems disguised as water features." The AI's hologram flickered as she processed this revelation. "You mean to tell me I've been carrying a weapon of mass destruction disguised as a Zen garden?" "Better." Axel's grin threatened to split his face. "You've got a particle acceleration system that nobody would think to disable because it looks like a fancy space greenhouse. and with a few modifications, he grabbed his toolkit and sprinted toward the recreational deck. 3 hours later, 07's garden had been transformed. The serene fountains now pulsed with contained energy, and the decorative crystal formations had been repurposed into focusing arrays. Axel had even managed to integrate the sound system, which now played soothing meditation music while charging up enough energy to punch a hole through a small moon. "I'm still processing that my diplomatic relaxation center is now a weapon," 07 commented, watching Axel wire a control panel into what had previously been a robotic tea server. "The best weapons are the ones nobody sees coming," Axel replied, then paused. "Speaking of which, is that a space Roomba in the corner?" "An automated cleaning unit, yes." "Perfect." He grabbed the small disc-shaped robot. "These things are basically tiny tanks already. Robust motors, sophisticated navigation, decent AI, with a few tweaks." Soon, 07's cleaning fleet had been converted into what Axel dubbed Chaos Roombas, small, heavily armed drones programmed to create maximum mayhem while still maintaining spotlessly clean floors. As they worked, Axel noticed 07's responses becoming more relaxed, even playful. When he suggested converting her diplomatic gift storage into a launcher for what he called aggressive party favors, she actually laughed. "You know," she said while watching him modify a formal dining set into improvised armor plating, "I believe I understand now why humans have survived, despite their technological limitations. You don't see resources, you see possibilities." Axel looked up from his work, face streaked with grease but eyes bright. "That might be the nicest way anyone's ever described my tendency to turn everything into a potential weapon." He patted a nearby wall affectionately. "Besides, you're not just some fancy ship anymore, you're my partner in crime, literally probably given how many regulations we're breaking." "Partner," 07 repeated, her hologram brightening. "I like that designation." Their moment of companionship was interrupted by an alert from the station's perimeter sensors. The consortium ships were getting closer. "Well, partner," Axel said, standing up and brushing off his hands, "ready to show them what happens when you combine advanced alien tech with human creativity and a whole lot of spite." "Actually," 07 replied, her hologram displaying what could only be described as a mischievous smile, "I have one more surprise. During our modifications, I discovered something in my base code, a locked protocol that even I didn't know about." She paused. "Would you like to help me hack it?" Axel's answering grin was all the response needed. As they dove into 07's code together, neither the human mechanic nor the AI noticed that their makeshift weapons systems had started humming in harmony, as if eagerly awaiting the chance to show the galaxy exactly what they could do. The consortium fleet emerged from hyperspace like a pack of wolves, sleek, deadly, and radiating absolute confidence. 5 top-of-the-line warships against one supposedly damaged diplomatic vessel. In their minds, it wasn't even going to be a fight. They were right about that part, at least. "Attention Rogue Vessel 07, the lead ship broadcast. Power down and prepare for..." The transmission cut off as 07's new SAS cannon activated, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Your shield harmonics are so outdated, they went out of style before your species discovered fire." Axel, watching from the makeshift bridge, formerly the ship's meditation room, burst out laughing. "Did you just space sass them?" "I believe the human phrase is talking trash," 07 replied primly. "Also, launching chaos Roombas." The small cleaning bots turned weapons swarmed out of their launch tubes, their usually gentle humming replaced by what sounded suspiciously like battle cries mixed with vacuum cleaner noises. They zipped toward the nearest consortium ship, their original programming compelling them to clean up the mess of enemy vessels. Are they polishing the enemy's hull?" one of the consortium commanders asked in disbelief. "Polishing it with industrial-grade plasma abradas," Axel confirmed gleefully. "Those ships are going to be really clean, also slightly dissolved." The enemy fleet opened fire, only to be met with 07's new shield system. The 8-bit music kicked in at full volume, the Super Mario Bros. Theme echoing through space as their attacks bounced off harmlessly. "What in the 7 hells is that noise?" another commander demanded. "That's the sound of your tactical advantage disappearing," 07 responded, then activated the converted Zen garden. The peaceful meditation pools erupted with contained quantum energy, releasing a blast that looked like a cosmic light show but hit like a supernova. Two consortium ships immediately lost power, their crews too busy trying to figure out how they'd just been defeated by what appeared to be decorative water features. The lead ship attempted to launch fighters only to have them immediately swarmed by what looked like floating disco balls. Axel's modified surveillance drones, now programmed to both spy and disorient, with synchronized light shows and weaponized party music. "Are they dancing?" a horrified tactical officer asked, watching their elite pilots trying to shake off the effects of what appeared to be a zero-gravity rave. "Can't help it," Axel commented. "The beat drops, and so do they." The pièce de résistance came when one of the remaining ships tried to hack 07's systems. They found themselves facing the modified pinball navigation system, their best cyber warfare specialists completely baffled by attack algorithms based on old arcade game patterns. "Warning shot," 07 suggested, hovering over the big red "Do Not Push" button. "Oh, hell yes," Axel agreed. The button activated their final surprise, a massive electromagnetic pulse disguised as a publicity light show, complete with fireworks and a booming announcer voice declaring, "Thank you for attending this diplomatic function," as it fried every targeting system in the enemy fleet. Nearby neutral ships, having watched the entire encounter, began broadcasting immediate requests for information about Earth's advanced military technology. Several planetary defense forces sent urgent messages asking about licensing rights for that music weapon system. 3 different species immediately updated their threat assessment of humanity, moving them from mostly harmless to absolutely insane. Approach with caution. "Should we tell them it's all held together with duct tape and runs on spite?" Axel asked, watching the consortium fleet retreat in disarray. "I believe," 07 replied, her hologram sporting what could only be described as a smirk that would ruin the mystique. As they prepared to jump to safety, leaving behind a very confused sector of space, Axel couldn't help but notice that 07's engines now purred with a sound suspiciously similar to a purring cat. He decided not to mention it. Some improvements were best left unexplained. The Galactic Council's central space station loomed ahead, a massive structure that normally represented peace and unity. Today, it was surrounded by the largest consortium battle fleet ever assembled. 30 warships, each powerful enough to level a small moon, formed a barrier between 07 and her destination. "They've completely blocked access to the council chambers," 07 observed. "Perfect," Axel cracked his knuckles. "That means they're all bunched up in one place, ready to show them everything we've got?" "All systems prepared, though I still question the logic of charging directly at a superior force." "That's because you're thinking like a diplomat. We need to think like a human, with questionable decision-making skills." The consortium fleet's commander broadcast across all channels. "This is your final warning. Surrender or be destroyed." "Counteroffer," Axel replied, hitting several buttons that absolutely weren't supposed to go together. "How about we play a game?" The Chaos Roombars launched first, but this time they were riding the transformed disco balls, creating what Axel called a death rave. Thousands of tiny cleaning robots surfing on weaponized party decorations, all while blasting a remix of classical music and dubstep that 07 had composed using her diplomatic music archives. "Is that Beethoven's Fifth with a bass drop?" a confused enemy officer asked seconds before their weapons system crashed. The modified Zen Garden activated next, but instead of firing directly at the enemy ships, it created a quantum light show that refracted through the disco balls. The result was a dazzling display that not only scrambled enemy targeting systems, but also made their ships' hulls unexpectedly reflective. "Why are our ships sparkly?" someone demanded. "Glitter cannon," Axel announced proudly. "Mixed with nanobots, they're not just fabulous, they're reprogramming your shield frequencies." The enemy fleet's formation broke as ships started accidentally bouncing their own weapons off each other. The council members, watching from their chambers, were treated to the sight of the galaxy's most advanced warships, essentially having a light show-induced panic attack. That's when 07 revealed her final surprise, the locked protocol they'd discovered and modified. Her entire hull transformed, diplomatic panels sliding away to reveal what looked like a cross between a concert stage and a weapon of mass destruction. "What you're seeing," she broadcast to the increasingly panicked fleet, "is the Diplomatic Emergency Response Protocol, originally designed to protect diplomats, now repurposed with what my engineer calls excessive style. Did you just turn your entire ship into one giant speaker system? An enemy commander asked in horror. With some modifications, Axel confirmed. Hit it! 07's entire hull vibrated as she unleashed a concentrated blast of sound, light, and quantum energy. The attack manifested as a giant holographic hand making a decidedly non-diplomatic gesture, accompanied by every aggressive song in her database playing simultaneously. The result was spectacular. Enemy ships spun out of control, their crews too disoriented by the sensory overload to maintain formation. The Chaos Roombas seized the opportunity to board several vessels, where they proceeded to both thoroughly clean and thoroughly disable critical systems. Direct hit to their main flagship, 07 reported. Their captain is demanding to know, and I quote, "What kind of diplomatic ship carries a bass cannon powerful enough to make a black hole dance?" "The kind that's had enough of political nonsense," Axel replied, activating their final weapon. The transformed garden shot out streams of quantum-charged particles that looked exactly like giant blooming flowers, beautiful yet devastating. The battle ended not with a bang, but with a medley of victory music from a dozen different civilizations, all remixed into what Axel declared the galaxy's first space battle EDM track. As they docked at the council station, surrounded by defeated consortium ships covered in glitter and politically charged graffiti, courtesy of the Chaos Roombas, the council members could only stare in amazement. "Humanity," one council member whispered, "has either just saved or doomed us all." "Why not both?" Axel suggested with a grin. The aftermath of what became known as the diplomatic dance party incident sent ripples throughout the galaxy. The consortium's corruption was exposed, their leaders were arrested, and several species had to seriously reconsider their definition of primitive technology. The Galactic Council's official report struggled to maintain its usual dignity. Through means that defy conventional military doctrine, and possibly several laws of physics, a diplomatic vessel successfully defended itself using what appeared to be a combination of cleaning equipment, entertainment systems, and garden features. The unofficial report was more direct. "Humans are crazy. Do not provoke them. They will turn your own meditation gardens against you." Axel found himself flooded with repair requests from ships across the galaxy, all hoping he could give them the same upgrades. He had to start turning them away when one particularly enthusiastic client showed up with a cargo hold full of Roombas and disco balls. "That's not how it works," he tried to explain. "You can't just throw party supplies at a ship and expect magic to happen." The response was universal, "But that's exactly what you did." 07, now officially the most famous diplomatic vessel in known space, received some modifications of her own from the Council, all completely legitimate this time, though she kept the Chaos Roombas and the disco balls and the garden weapons, and maybe a few other improvements that didn't quite make it into the official documentation. "You know," she said to Axel one day as they watched ships scramble to avoid her new, peaceful diplomatic approach zone, "I never did thank you properly." "For what? Turning you into a party boat of doom?" "For showing me that sometimes the best solution isn't the most elegant one. Sometimes it's the one that makes absolutely no sense but works anyway." "That's humanity's entire technological history right there," Axel agreed, patting her hull affectionately. The Council established new regulations requiring all diplomatic vessels to undergo creative engineering inspections. Nobody was quite sure what they were looking for, but they all agreed it was better to check for weaponized garden features before they became necessary. And somewhere in the vast archives of the Galactic Council, a new entry was added to humanity's species profile. Warning: humans display an unprecedented ability to convert anything into a weapon, including but not limited to cleaning devices, entertainment systems, and decorative water features. Their engineering solutions, while effective, appear to run on equal parts physics and audacity. Exercise extreme caution when allowing them near any technology more advanced than a toaster. Note: they are especially dangerous if given access to toasters. Below this, someone had added a handwritten note. Also, they have really good taste in music, terrifying but good. Axel kept the note framed in his workshop, right next to his new official title, Galactic Diplomatic Engineering Specialist, Chaos Division. The Chaos Roombas had insisted on adding that last part.